Let's be honest, photo shoots are beautiful, but they're also expensive and super time consuming. We're talking thousands of dollars and lots of moving parts, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense to do a full photo shoot for every single project. As I always say, not all projects are sexy, but that doesn't mean that you don't want to be showing off your work. As designers and decorators, we've all been there. You snap a few great shots on your phone only to get back to your desk and think, well, that's not really Instagram worthy, or that's not really the right tones, or it's not really all that bright. Well, I knew that feeling well, and I wanted a better solution, so I created one. So now I'm sharing that with you. Introducing the Business of Beautiful Spaces preset collection, a set of 6 professionally crafted Lightroom mobile presets made just for you, interior designers and decorators. These are exact filters that I have used in my career to brighten, deepen, soften, and polish my photos. So even those quick iPhone pics of a custom sofa detail or a fabulous pillow or an amazing accessory or a shelf that I curated, I can make it look refined and cohesive with the rest of my feed. So whether you're dealing with tricky lighting, imperfect backgrounds, or just want to make your portfolio shine, these presets are your new secret weapon. And here's the best part. This entire collection is $57. That's it. No subscriptions, no fancy equipment, just your phone, a free app, and a few taps to create stunning, consistent visuals. Your work deserves to be seen. Let's make sure it looks as professional as it feels. So grab the Business of Beautiful Spaces preset collection today and elevate your photos without breaking the bank. Hi there, interior design lovers. Welcome back to the Business of Beautiful Spaces, the podcast where we blend design inspiration with all behind the scenes tips and tricks you need to thrive in your business. I'm your host, Laura Thornton, and with over 27 years in this interior design game and running a 7-figure design company, trust me, I've seen it all. I want to be your interior design bestie. I want to help you build the business of your dreams, make more money, and yes, ditch the stress along the way. I've been doing this for a long time, and now I'm sharing my knowledge with all of you, my fellow designers and decorators. All I ask in return is that you like, review, and follow this podcast wherever you listen, so other designers can find us and learn more too. So grab a coffee, get comfy, and let's dive into making 2025 your best business year yet. Today's guest is someone who truly needs no introduction in the interior design world, but I'm giving her one anyway because she absolutely deserves it. I am thrilled to welcome Laurie Laizure, the creator and force behind the interior design community, a thriving hub of over 94,000 design professionals built on collaboration, support, and shared knowledge. Laurie has her finger on the pulse of our industry. She is at every major design show, in conversation with designers daily, and deeply understands what we are all thinking and facing and dreaming about. So in addition to building one of the most powerful design communities out there, Laurie is also the host of To The Trade podcast, a must-listen for all designers and decorators looking to elevate their businesses, manage clients with confidence, and build their brands, and stay ahead of the curve with smart technology and industry insights. But today, we are going to talk all about the power of community and how the interior design community is shaping the future of our profession and why designers are stronger when we support one another. So let's dive in. Welcome back to the Business of Beautiful Spaces. Thanks so much for joining me, Laurie, today. I appreciate your time. And I want to jump right into, if you don't mind sharing, for anyone who might not know who you are and how important you are to our industry, how you got into the design industry and then creating the interior design community.
Well, I actually wasn't in this industry. I was in a alternative industry. I was in the printing industry for many years, and I was a sort of high-powered product development person and salesperson in the world of fine art reproduction. And I found a material that I thought was going to be like the next big thing. And it was peel and stick wallpaper, which, as we can, can all see, really was the next big thing. But I was early in the game and I really didn't understand the market, to be fair. But I was learning a lot about how websites worked, how digital marketing worked, how to build a brand. And I noticed that designers were people that I would want to talk to and that they were struggling with the same stuff. I mean, it was just all in its infancy. We're all learning how e-commerce works and SEO works and Google reviews and social media. I mean, this is pre-Instagram. I mean, I think that there were a few chats on Twitter. There was a mean girl chat that where the person didn't want you to use her hashtag without her permission. So I remember literally going like, "Hey, I found this really cool tool that helps you schedule pins on Pinterest. Here's the link." And she was like, "If you use my hashtag without my permission, I'm going to sue you." And I was just like, "Okay, I that's weird." And so I didn't know how to navigate those situations. And then at the time, Google was then recommended social media for everything because it was the best SEO bang for buck. They owned 90% of search. They owned YouTube at the time. And if you put a link on Google Plus, it automatically indexed your blog. And I was doing a lot of SEO and blogging and things like that. And so they started a thing called communities. And I just was like, first day, interior design community. And I really didn't think this was going to be taking over my life for the next 12 years. I was just thinking like, oh, it'd be really fun if I got like 50 people and we were just sharing, hey, this works and that works. And the conversation could be a little longer than Twitter. And it blew up. Like I had 200 people the first day. And then it just grew and grew and grew. And it got up to 100,000 people. I personally on that site had 100,000. But I could kind of see the writing on the wall that Google wasn't talking about anymore. But it was very cutting edge. We did our first Google live. We used to do these live webinars. They had called Google Hangouts. They had this really neat thing where you could give people expert advice. They were called Google Helpouts, and we got some designers doing helpouts across the world where they were doing like e-design before e-design was a thing. So it was really they had this thing called authorship where it would, as you built your blog up, it would have your picture next to everything, like so that you were the expert in a certain area. It was just really good stuff. But we definitely saw Instagram sort of taking off, and I started investing. How can I change what we're doing here over that? And so started doing our questions of the day and our memes and still trying to grow that sense of community. But it's a good like reminder you don't own any social media. You're building on borrowed
Yes.
land, and it can
Yes.
be all gone tomorrow. But it was, I think that the most interesting part was that the idea no matter where I put it, was growing because we had a group on Pinterest, 21,000 followers. We had a Facebook group, we had a LinkedIn group, we had an Instagram group, which is our biggest to this day, and we have our website and our email list and all of those things. You just kind of grow them as their own little individual gardens, and you hope they cross-pollinate as much as
I do
possible.
have to tell you, I love your questions when you put them out on Instagram because I don't think there's ever been one where I'm not like, yes, or like you connect, or you like, of course you've thought of this before. And it has to be just simply that, right? If I'm one designer who has said yes to it, there's got to be a plethora others who are also it's resonating with. And so of course that, like to your point, you're just cross-pollinating and also like, of course it's going to connect because we're all in it, all searching for it. And if it's going to come up in your algorithm, it makes sense, right?
Yes,
So,
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, we get a
yeah.
lot of the questions from members. They just write them in. And I think one of the byproducts of that that's really fantastic is that it resonates with so many people because it doesn't necessarily mean like sometimes you're looking for an answer in that thread, and sometimes you're like looking for validation that you're just like not alone in the situation
Hmm.
that other
Hmm.
people are dealing with the same crap you're dealing with and that they're giving you the possibility that I think that's the one thing that I think we do more than anything else is make people feel less alone and that it's not them, it's not you, you're not bad at this job, it's just a hard job, right? So that is the biggest takeaway that interior design
Hmm.
people do. It gives, and I think that not knowing that you're not alone can give you a sense of peace and make you feel more confident in your work. Like, okay, this isn't just me.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one struggling with this. I think that that's probably the biggest takeaway that I've learned.
Yeah. Less lonely. Like you,
It is a
and
very long
it's
job.
extremely lonely. And, I think I mentioned this to you when we spoke last week too, but like I always just thought it, you think it's just you think, or then you think it's just our industry because there's
Right.
so many females, it's so many women, and
Right.
so many of us are solopreneurs, or start off as a solopreneur in your home or whatever the case may be. And as you build, you're looking around for others, and there's, it's just you who you're going to bounce an idea off of. It's lonely. And I joined the EO organization a few years ago, and the one thing that organization has taught me, there's been many things, but it's the entrepreneurs organization, is that every entrepreneur has that same, they could have 20 employees, they could have 200 employees. The person that is running the business is still lonely. It is still questioning their decisions, is still not sure how to, like, it's just something that is. And I know that, you started this community and you're fostering collaboration and growth and innovation through all interior designers. And, you travel, you are at all the shows, you see so much. Is there one commonality, like one concern or one question that comes up the most in all of your experiences, or is it just
Yeah,
anything and
I mean, I would
everything?
absolutely say pricing is the
Yeah,
biggest
me
question
too.
that designers always have because it's no model is the same, and all
Hmm.
of your pricing is behind like a paywall. So it's not like you can Google it and find out what an interior designer in your area charges because it's not online. You can't see it. So if it's a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house and it's 2,000 square feet, how much does it cost to be professionally interior designed? If I asked 15 designers, I'm going to get 15 different answers
Yes.
and all different kinds of billing platforms and ways with which you work and deposit structures and fulfillment structures. And because of that, a new person coming in is always wondering, am I leaving money on the table? Am I pricing this accurately? Because they can't really benchmark it against anything. There isn't a benchmark. It's all
Yeah.
smoke and
Yeah.
mirrors
There's no
in some
standard.
ways. Like there's no
Yeah. There's no
standard.
standard. Yeah.
Yeah,
And to your point, even when you Google it, who's putting that information in is what I'd like to know. Where did
right.
those numbers come from?
Because they're usually very low, right? I mean, they're
Yeah.
when you
Very
Google it,
wrong.
they're almost like
Yeah.
ridiculously low, and you're anybody who went with those numbers would be out of business in a year, right?
Yes. Yeah. You
So,
can't live. That's a hobby, not a career. You might as well go
absolutely.
work for somebody else. I know
Yes,
because of course we've all done it, and or like you're going to bring someone on, you kind of want to know what the going rate is. I want to know where those numbers come from because
right,
they're not that they're garbage. They're worthless. That's not true. Yeah. Yeah.
right,
It can't
right.
be. Yeah.
Can't
Nobody
be.
would
Or
go into this business
if they were
if those
making
numbers were
$40 an
accurate.
hour, and if they were charging $70 an hour to
Right.
design, because and the thing is that the hard as a person who runs the community and I talk to interior designers every single day for 12 years, has given me this like bird's eye view of the design industry and where the problems are and how we can globally try to fix some of the problems because that's really the stuff that keeps me up at night is like there are so many designers who don't have a 401k. There's in the United States, there are so many designers that go underinsured. There are so many designers that are underbidding on projects. And it is predominantly women. There are 80% women. There's 20% men, many of them LGBTQ. And I just consider this vulnerable population where there just aren't enough resources to make sure that we're building strong businesses, that we are building equity, we're building our business that can be sold someday.
That's right.
And I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing it. I mean, I can't find businesses. I have a designer brand that asked me because they've got a client that's trying to sell the business and they want to benchmark the price and build a valuation for the business and they can't even find businesses that have been sold to benchmark a valuation. And I just think that that's a real shame. I mean, I don't know people in any industry that work as hard as interior designers. They care more than any other industry, I can swear, and they really put their heart and soul into it. They're up at night when things are going wrong that are beyond their control. And I don't want to see them build, and not have anything to show for it at the end of their careers, not have, a retirement savings, not have a nest egg to fall back on, not have a
Yeah.
business that they can sell. I mean, to me, it's a real shame, and we need to work really hard to change that. And if I do one thing, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. That's what I like. That's what I work towards with the Profit Academy because you get this. You get that you want to reverse engineer your salary. Let's say you worked for somebody else and a lot of people are like, I just want to make what I was making, but on my own time. Which,
Right,
okay, but that's what you want, that's great. But you could be working for somebody else. But you can
right,
build a business, you can still draw a salary, and you can still have equity in your business, which I really don't think enough people know enough about. That it's
right,
not just figuring out what you're going to charge hourly or square foot or whatever business model you choose. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But regardless of what that is, it is not just the end game is that you walk away with a salary. The end game is that you're building equity in your business
right,
so that you do have something to sell, or you have something to retire on, or you have something to ride out the highs and the lows. But I feel
right.
like that gets not even discussed. And to your
It
point,
doesn't.
liabilities, insurances, there's a lot of things that should be paramount every year in any designer business to
Investments,
protect
like just
yourself.
being, we're
Yes.
women, we in business, we should be having strong portfolios of investment
Yeah.
ourselves, you know,
Yeah.
and and
And who
we
teaches you this? This is where, right? You don't know what you don't know until someone says you should have X, Y, and Z in your business. You need insurance. That should be the first thing you have you need to protect yourself. I would say you also, again, we are from two different countries, but incorporating is massively important in Canada because they can't go after anything you personally
right,
own.
same thing
It's
here.
just a business. So
Yeah,
that needs to be considered. There are so many things to protect yourself and what you've built with whether you have a spouse or a partner, whether you have children or you don't, or your fur babies, whatever the case may be, you need to protect what you own and what you've worked towards. And
absolutely.
you need to not only make money, but you also need to be making equity so that you can invest or you can buy a building or you can buy something under your company and start building up another revenue stream. There is so much that could be discussed
There could
on
be.
this
And I
topic.
don't, it's
So
wonderful that
important.
how much you all care. I mean, I think that should be applauded. It's not that you don't care. It's that sometimes the business lessons that we all need to learn are not translated to the interior design industry and to say, and I think that we all have our little ways of doing things and that's good, but in general, we need to be a little bit, and we say transparency, but we don't really mean it. What we mean by transparency is we're going to tell you some parts of what we do, but we really don't tell you all parts of what we do. We really aren't honest about, it could be, 15, 20 hours to find the right light fixture. And we know the client would not love that fee of that it's 20 hours at, 175 to $300 an hour to find that light fixture because it's double, triple the price of
Hmm.
the light fixture itself. And so what designers will do is instead we're playing this like shell game where we take a few hours off here and we add a little profit onto here and we think we're kind of like
Balancing it all
leveling the
out.
playing field and we're
Yeah,
not. We're always really taking away from ourselves and
it's true.
not being honest with what we need to do and what it really takes to do good design. And I think I've even had like conversations with designers who, the sales skills where they're like, I sit down with a client and I tell them right away, they're going to be pain, there's going to be tears, so you're going to hate me at times, but we're going to get through this together, and it's my job to do that. And I almost disagree with that too. I mean, I was in sales for 15 years before I came into this, and I can say like I did a lot of sales training through the years, and they would tell you don't ever highlight negative emotion with a client. You talk about what the solution is and how you've come to the solution and how you're going to fix their problems, but you don't highlight that they're going to feel badly. You're going to say, you're going to run into problems. You're going to have products that come in that are broken. You're going to have issues come down the road, but I'm here to help you fix that so you don't have to handle that.
That's right.
That's really what's going on. It's not your problem. It's not I'm going to have broken furniture come in. I'm going to be ordering things that no, you're ordering it. I'm helping you make the best decisions with your money, but it's your stuff, and if you were doing it, the same stuff would be going wrong. But
That's right.
instead of you handling it, I'm handling it. It's a service. And it's just so tricky. I've had conversations with so many designers about this because it's this weird like friendship with the client where they kind of feel like you should be doing some of this at a discount. You're not quite the maid or the nanny. You're kind of the friend, but you still work for them. At the end of
Yeah,
the day, they're still
it's very
paying
true.
you. And
Yeah.
it's this very like eggshell, walking on
Because
eggshell.
it turns into blurred lines. It's happened to
It
me many
does.
times where it would be very easy for me to become friends with my client. Like
Sure.
we niched really well. You're having all these great conversations on site. So it starts to feel like you're buddies, and it's a slippery slope, and I've had
Long
to
term,
stop
so it's
it.
hard not
Yes.
to, right?
Yes. I've been invited to Christmas parties and I turn to the contractor and say, "Were you invited? Are you going to this party?" And they're like, "We didn't get invited." And you start to see that you could have these blurred lines. And so you
Sure.
had to recognize it. I pumped the brakes on it, even though you want to have a great rapport, but exactly your point. Then it starts to feel like icky. Now you're charging them, but you had a good time and you were talking about your kids an hour ago, but now I have to bill you. So yeah, it becomes this
Yeah.
fine line where you're the friend and the business part is no longer paramount, which it needs to be at all times that
Right.
you're in a
And
professional
they're
manner.
going to feel like you should be doing some of this for free because you're friends now, right? I mean,
Yes.
they're going to feel like, well, wait a minute. We just were having like this
Yes.
conversation about
Yeah.
our kids. Like, why are you charging me for that conversation? Or why are
Uh,
you not helping me and giving me a deal on the furniture? Pass your discount over
right.
to me, girl. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
that kind of
No, it's a
stuff.
fine
And
line that you have to
it
watch
is.
for sure. And
And
you
I
want
think,
the next business. You don't want it to all of a sudden be your friends and now
right,
you've lost that revenue stream of them and their referrals and their friends. You have to
sure.
draw that line of this is business and you're in business. I always say I'm in business unapologetically to make money. Otherwise, I could have been working for anybody else.
Right. Making
Yeah,
money as
like it
well.
has to
And not
be
having the
it, yes.
responsibility.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you have to keep the mindset of you're in business to be
But
profitable.
isn't that funny that when you think about the contractor and you think about the tile guy and the painter and all the different people that work with you, that they're not in the same spot. They're not invited to that Christmas party. They're not chumming around with the client in the same way. They're not asked to make discounts. They're not ever going to buy something for the client or make concessions. It's like it is what it is. This is broken. We're going to fix it. This is the cost. Like, here's what's going on. It's so much more, that it's so much more definitive and clear in those other areas, but weirdly in design, it's
It's a weird double standard.
a double standard.
Yeah, like my dad was a builder, a luxury home builder, and he drove a beat up old pickup truck Monday through Friday that nobody would question. Like no one thought twice about what he showed up in on a job site. And that's what people expected. But on weekends, he had a nice car that he would drive our family to church in or whatever. Great. But nowadays, if I showed up in a beat up old pickup truck, are they going to pay the equivalent of what our hourly pay is? Absolutely
Right.
not. So it's
No,
this weird double standard that,
you're expected
we
to
have to show
present
up
like you're
dressed.
on par, like with
That's
you're
right.
expected to show up like you are part of the country club, like you are part,
Fully
like,
agree.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you're marketing yourself as you don't just want you don't just want me to design your beautiful dream home. You also want me to represent the fact that I'm showing up looking like I can do that and that I've been
Right.
successful in doing that. And it's this weird double standard that shouldn't exist because the contractor is probably making more money. The Tyler gentleman's in and out with less headaches. He's just got the plan and off he goes and see you later. Bye. Like it's a very different standard that we're held to,
Right.
like to your point. And if I showed up in a beat up old pickup truck, they're probably not going to think that I am the right fit for them, which is
Right.
not right, but it's
No.
true. Yeah,
Right,
yeah, that's
right. And
that's
that's I think where the muddy waters start to happen, where they expect this we are peers, but we're not peers, and we are friends, but we're not friends, and we are, you should look like you make as much money as I do, even though you don't. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And we pretend. We do a lot of that in this industry. We have a lot of designers who feel like they have to do that. They have to have the Land Rover and the Tesla, and they have to show up with their nails done and their hair done, and they have to look like they're being designer clothes with designer shoes. And then the reality comes with that too, where we're not really equal. And you know what? They have a lot more power than we do. They can sue the bands off us if they wanted
That's
to.
it. The whole time you're talking, I'm like, and they could bury me. Yes.
Second, in a second.
But then it also, don't you feel like at some point you now potentially I've had a lot of clients in my lifetime that are not caught up in any trends. They're not caught up in design or anything. They wouldn't know it if it hit them in the face. And yet, been the best clients I've ever had with
Right.
budgets that did not exist and would have bought and paid for their time back, like meaning us, like to
Yeah.
hire us so that they can still go on their vacations and be at their other homes. And they don't buy into any of that. Do
Right.
we then leave ourselves out of those clients who think now, well, this is not the right fit? Like they're too caught
Maybe.
up in all the
I
things. And
think we
so,
should be
how do this
thinking
fine
about it.
line of, yeah, right?
Yeah, I think we should be thinking about it because the truth is we are saving them time and hassle.
And
And when they should be bringing us in is actually probably inaccurate. I mean, a lot of the
first,
times they're
yeah,
taking in the designer after it's already been built and after
that's right.
all sorts of mistakes
Yeah.
have happened. So I think that the way we market ourselves and the way we talk about design and the way we educate the market as a community of people who should be out there educating the market, we should be setting ourselves we get
Hmm.
to say that's the thing that's the most exciting part is in the today's world where there's video and there's blogging and there's all these formats to communicate, we can actually do a much better job saying what it is we do and what it is we and I feel like we actually do have a missed opportunity there where we could become a lot stronger. And, design isn't just about picking out pretty things. It's like we're thinking
Yes.
about the most interesting thing I think a designer does is really the space planning part of it. I mean, that's and increasing the functionality of the space. I mean, that's the most
Yes.
important thing
It's
in
the
design.
most, I say that all the time. Those 6 to 8 weeks where it's just drawings, the most like, and the most communication with the client to find out
Yeah.
what you need. Because I always say we can make anything look pretty. But if
Yeah.
6 months after we've finished your home and it's not efficient or it's not doing what you, then we have made an epic mistake. And so those are the
Absolutely.
most,
How do you
there,
live?
it's
What's
not
important?
fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so important. And people don't put enough value in it, like the
I have
pre-gaming.
I have like a one of the favorite things in my house is I have like a laundry chute that goes from my primary bathroom right down to my laundry room.
Laundry room.
And I'm like, that's what design is. It's
Yeah.
the things I don't have to think about that save me, 15 minutes a week, an hour a week, whatever. That I don't have to think about this. It's just it just works. It just works. It's
Yes.
something in my house that just works. And that's
That
all
used to be so
I'm
common in the
doing.
60s and 70s, and then they took it away.
I know.
And they
I love
took
it.
it away when they put laundry in the basement of people's homes. Like we have basements here.
I
So they
know.
they they took them away and put them in. So now you're walking from the second story down to the basement, which normally isn't finished, into this cold dark with a bit like anyway, knocking all the walls.
Yeah,
Like it's such a
I
funny thing
know.
that somebody down the road took that away. It was not a
So
woman, by the
fair.
way.
It's not a
Like not
designer
you
did
can
that.
come for hate, but that was not a woman who took that away.
Heck no. No. But
Oh
it's
my
the wonderful
gosh.
things that designers think about, and like, oh, you really love your morning ritual of coffee. We could do a coffee bar in your primary suite. We could have like a little balcony moment where you could go out and enjoy the morning and we'll put a little mini fridge if you want to have another beverage there, whatever. And maybe have a wine in the afternoon and overlook your yard or these little that's what design, in my opinion, that's like the increase
Yeah, the
your
nuances.
pleasure of
But
your
people are
space.
braver. Yeah, people are getting, our clients are getting braver because they're more
Yeah,
educated on like, just Instagram. I mean, as soon as someone starts thinking they're going to do something, they're going to Google it. Like I started
right.
playing Mahjong recently and now my algorithm is a Mahjong. Like, you think that I like, but it's like I'm trying to decide which tiles to buy. And I don't have to go out now. I Googled it once. I looked it up on Instagram and now later tonight I'll have 50 new Mahjong accounts that are going to come to me. And
Right,
so that's what our clients are getting too when they
right,
type in my new ensuite or my new whatever.
right,
And so they're going to get that. And I think they're being braver with their choices because we covet
right,
our time in a different way. And what I'm hearing a lot less now is, well, when I go to sell the house, or I might sell the house in 5 to 10, like we hear it a lot less because I think it is so much more commonplace to change your space into your space, not I bought this and I'm moving into it. Because now people are more willing to create these little special spaces for how you live, to your point, like the coffee or the wine lounge, or, if you're a cigar smoker or your spouse is or whatever, then they're creating more of these spaces for them, for their lifestyle, which I really like. I like that people are making it for them and not the next person who might move in 10 years. Like, who cares? And you have 10
And
years to live
honestly,
with
I
that
think
space.
I think that sells. I don't I'm a lover of like realtor sites. I love looking on there. I'm like always looking at houses. It's like one of my favorite hobbies. If I'm bored, I'm on like Zillow or Trulia looking at houses. And I can tell you, I watch houses. I see the ones that are professionally interior designed and they're gone. They're
Gone.
gone because it's
Hmm.
not necessarily,
Value.
maybe it's not the other person's style, but anyone can walk into a house that has been professionally designed and get it. They're like, "Oh, this is special." You know what I mean? Like it doesn't look like every other.
Yeah.
The builder grade stuff, you can tell it's builder grade. I mean, they
Right.
went with gray hard.
Yeah.
Like they were like, "Oh,
Everywhere
I guess
and
gray's
always.
popular. Let's make the floors gray and the walls gray and everything in the house
Yeah.
gray."
And here's your little cold bubble of gray.
Yes, you
Oh
live
my
in
gosh.
prison now.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, enjoy it. And it's
Yeah.
usually the wrong gray. It is
It's the
that blue
wrong gray.
gray.
It's like
It's
that
so
bluish
cold.
rose gray.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
You
love it.
know, it was like someone just went to the Home Depot and said, "I'll take this one because it
Gray and
matches this
everything.
tile." Yeah.
It's so bad. And I'm like, they just didn't and that it's like they didn't get it. They
Yeah.
thought it's whatever you do gets trickled down to what they do. And I don't mean this to be mean, but I mean like whatever what you
Yeah.
are you guys are setting the trends. I mean, you were the first people to use gray and they were like, "Oh, it's different than beige, so we'll start do builder beige was a thing before that and this is fresher and newer." But they don't really for them it's about speed, it's got to go in fast and it's about making the most amount of money. And for designer, it's not about that. It's
No.
about how does it function and how beautiful can I make this with the budget? And that's the difference. If I'm a builder, I'm trying to get in and out as fast as I can and I'm trying to make as much money as I can. For designer, it's about how can I take your budget and make it look as beautiful as possible so I get more clients with the pretty pictures that I can get out of your budget. And how can I make it function for you the best with what you've got to spend?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, money doesn't isn't part of that equation. I mean, we want to make money, but that's not the most important thing to a designer. It's like, how can I make those photos look as good that represent me? How can I stretch your budget to make it look as luxurious as possible? And how can I make it as functional as possible so that you tell all your friends that you want
Yeah.
that they should hire me? So it's just a different mindset
Yeah.
completely. I don't
Well,
think
and the
builders are
all
thinking that.
gray. No, they want to appeal to the everybody as
Everybody.
opposed to being the standout. Like I've never wanted what my neighbor has, and I don't want my clients to, I don't want them to all look the same. And so that's where we stand out. That's what we do. Like we can make anything look good, but why do you want what everybody has? Then you don't
Right.
need me. You don't need
Right.
me. Right? That's
Well,
what
you
you
do
get. You get the
though. I
all
mean,
gray
I think you
house.
don't know what you don't know. And I think that's the
Yeah.
biggest part. It's not
Well,
about, to me, it's not even about like you're getting this something custom, which is really wonderful, but it's more like you have somebody who is going to really hold the standard of that project to make, no, you're not going to
hmm
do it faster just because that the tile, setting it this way is easier. No, it'll look prettier the other way. So we're doing it the other way. Well, it
yeah.
can't. Well, yes, it can. Because I've done it on 3 other projects and this is how we did it,
Yes. Or
I
you
mean,
don't have every room the same color gray. Why don't we make this
yeah,
one a different color gray with a
no,
little bit of warmth? Or why
exactly.
don't we do a
And
feature wall? Or why don't,
right,
like, it's the same efforts. It might just be a couple extra cans of paint and that house
right.
for sale on whatever you called it, Zolo, Trillo, whatever
Yeah,
site you were
yeah,
on,
yeah.
it will look completely different and it won't look like someone just did it to sell it to make money on it.
Right. And believe me,
Yeah.
those houses go. Like it
Yeah, oh,
doesn't
I don't
matter what
doubt
the color
it.
is,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter but it looks cohesive. And so it has that feeling of that happy, cohesive home. And those houses immediately sell. I mean, I truly believe design is the best return on investment because
Hmm.
you're getting more for your money and you're getting like something that looks like it's perfect, like a magazine. That's what sells
Yeah.
home, you know?
Well, even just I've had contractors that we will specify for, and they will always say to us, we can only use the photos of the spaces that you guys have designed for our clients because
Right.
they look better. And then we can use them on the Instagram and we can use them to get awards. And those are the only ones we can use because it's curated in a different way. And we might not get an opportunity to do the furniture and the drapery and all the lovely finishes, but the core selections of kitchen tiles, backsplash, counters, hardware, like all the like staple big things in a construction job, actually helps the contractor because they can now use those photos moving
You're
forward as
welcome.
opposed to, right? Yeah.
Right? You're like,
Added bonus. But anyway, I'm
did you
glad you brought
tag
that up
me on the
because,
pictures? No, you didn't.
right? No, they didn't. So, because now, like you and I were talking before we hit record about the generational shift of like when I came up versus now, and you're in the know, you're talking to designers all the time. What is the biggest shift you're seeing with the education or leadership moving into the future generations?
Well, I think that, as designers come out, unfortunately, I'd love to see this be a bigger shift than it is, but I definitely think online resources and great, there are just so many more people willing to share and learn and teach and be out there giving information, whether it's podcasting or you're reading a blog or you're looking on an Instagram. People are a little bit more giving, and those resources are available. I do think we're missing the mark from the point of education. I think that designers who go to design school need a lot more business education in the school system, and that they should be aware of things and how they run when they come out. I mean, I know a lot of recent graduates who don't know that High Point exists. They come out and they think that they need to set up an account with Restoration Hardware or
Right.
Wayfair to get their profit. And as you and I know, that's, going to fail them pretty quickly.
Yes.
So it's the business side of the education, I think, is still the number one problem. Like, we don't have good accounting practices that designers know immediately, business practices, sales practices, marketing practices. Those could be increased. But the fact that there are so many amazing designers out there that are like, this is how I do it. Here's my SOPs. Here is my onboarding contract stuff that I've got. You can just email me and I'll share it with you. I mean, we have so many designers in our community that are in the comments just saying, yeah, I'll send you over what my onboarding documents look like, and I'll send you over what my contract looks like. And well, I don't recommend that. I think you should hire an attorney that does
I
your own
fully agree.
contract.
Yeah.
It's better than you not having one.
Nothing.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's better that you get educated and you take it upon yourself to realize what it is you need to learn in business. We just had a designer that was at one of our panels at High Point who was asking a question about money, and she was charging $75 an hour. And the whole room was like, oh, no. And they were like, she's like, well, I'm a new designer. I just started. I worked for someone else previously. They were like, that's experience too. 175. Don't, everybody was like, don't do anything under
Yeah.
175. And it was so awesome. Like, the whole room just like literally like gasped and like turned around to her and were like giving her like a firm talking to.
Yeah. Have more confidence in yourself, right?
Prices.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I loved it. I mean, it was like, that's what we need, is the community setting the standard. And you can't, unfortunately, we just talked about this, you can't Google that.
No.
It says what you're Googling that, it'll tell you it is $75 an hour. That the average interior designer makes $48,000 a year.
Yeah.
I would not want to be
not
working
enough for the amount of work we do. Yeah, that's not enough.
To do that,
Yeah.
to making $40,000 a year. So
I did a whole podcast, which I will link if anyone's listening and didn't hear it. And it was 45 minutes of how to set your hourly fee. And unfortunately, a lot of people just do, I used to make this, what's that divided by 40 and get the amount. And that is not how you figure this out. So go back and listen to that. I'll reference it in the notes because
you have to remember
so much more.
You're not an hourly worker. You have to pay overhead. You have to pay your taxes. You have to pay your retirement. Even what you made when you worked for someone else, your company allotted about $50,000-$60,000 more because they have to take on their part of the responsibility, the insurances they cover for you, the overhead that they have for your office, the 401k, the health insurance contribution, your retirement contribution, all of the things that they're contributing in the overhead for you. So you have to think about that. That's really what you made even from the old job. You didn't make just your salary. You made more than
there's
that.
So much more involved. Your car, your gas, your insurance, your like medical, like there's so much more. And then you still need to be making money now for the business. So that's a whole other episode. But to your point, it's not as cut and dry as one would think. There's so much more behind it. And once you educate yourself, and that's the thing, trying to find that information, fair enough. But once you know it, you can't unknow it. And it changes. That's the other thing. It happened to me last month, numerous times over the last few years. I had called in to our workers' compensation board here multiple times to see if I needed it. Was told every time we do not need it. Doing my due diligence to call again. Guess what? As of last year, I needed it. So now I had to
Right.
go back and retro pay for an entire year, which was a scary thought because I was like, oh, that wasn't allotted for. That wasn't an expense that I knew was going to come down the pipe. And I had to go back and pay retrofit for an entire year of salaries, entire year of anyone who didn't have it. So anyway, long story short, it ended up to be very little. But if I had gone another year or another
Or
year and I
more.
wasn't doing,
Yeah.
but how was I supposed to find it? First of all, like, who tells you need this?
No.
And then who
Right.
decides what industry needs it? And then when did they decide to change the rules? And you have to just keep checking in and just keep checking in. Like, it's another thing on your checklist once a year. I always say go and call the or call the telephone company, call whoever, see if you can get a better price. You have to add these things in, call the associations, find out. Because if you don't belong to one or you don't have a network or you're not on your interior design community to find out, where are you going to find out this information?
Right.
Like,
I
we
mean,
need something. We need something that governs and says this is what you need to have if you're an interior designer or interior
you
decorator.
wish that that would be, but it
Yeah.
comes so many times, and I'm sure you've been experiencing this yourself. Is like I repeat things hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times,
Yes.
but it doesn't mean that the next person in an hour from now saw that. I
That's
put it
right.
out on Instagram today that really pay attention to your Google business reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Those are really
Mm-hmm.
important. That's how you get more business, really, if you want referrals. Pay attention to that. Pay attention to your email list. And I will have someone an hour later or 2 hours later that just will never see that. You know what I mean? They'll just
Yeah.
never, and they won't, they'll forget. And then 5 years down the line, they've not gotten any business reviews. And they're like, why do I not have a pipeline? And how is this not, how am I getting new business? And it's those little things that no one tells you. And I can tell you, even in the time that I've been doing interior design community, Google has changed the name of that business review section like 5 times. So
Right.
again, like how would you know what to search for? I mean, it's now Meta Business Suite or something. It's like
Right. Oh yeah, that's
it's always
yes.
changing. So, I mean, even what
Can't
you
even
search is not going to be the same thing. It's just
so
annoying.
crazy.
It's
How
annoying.
yeah, and how to stay up on it. But so I know that again, it's across the board. You're seeing new designers, you're seeing seasoned designers. Um, what are like, is there something that there's anything that you're experiencing that both or anybody in any gamut is missing? Like, besides the business acumen or learning about business, what is the commonality? Like, is it community that they just want to connect and somebody to say,
I
I'm
really
having the
think
same
that I think you're
experience?
right. There's a definitely an epidemic of loneliness in this industry, and especially if you're the business owner side. There's some competition feelings. I mean, I just had a
Mm,
designer today who had like an open letter privately. I haven't responded to her yet, but she had a private letter for design students. And she's like, obviously in that letter, there were some things that she might have experienced from employees and that she wanted, like, if you're coming on and working for someone else, that you should be aware of the stress and what they've dedicated, treat it well because, we've had, you might have had a recent grad, utilize your company credit card and buy coffees for herself or things like that just happen that
hmm.
design students might not necessarily know is like a big time no,
Yeah.
for a business owner, you know what I mean? Like this is my money. This is like how I pay my bills and how I pay you. And, so I think there's a lot of education that we don't always know how to work that out. And I even think when you boil it down to even the sales aspect of it, having good sales training so that we know what we're doing is the right way to present to a client and how we keep it professional and how we, how, there's like mirroring, these
Hmm.
old-time sales tactics that really do work. If they're kind of a soft, slow talker for you to mirror that and you start to
Yes.
talk slowly
So
and
the
softly to
comfortability.
them, use words that they use. If they're always saying, all right then, you start saying, all right then, those kinds of things that are really help you build rapport with clients that are lacking. I think that we need to have more professional training and more advocacy with the clientele to understand that this is how a project really looks. I think that that's still strangely a very big mystery to consumers out there. I think they do not understand our business at all. And I think that's our fault. We need to do a better
Hmm.
job saying what it is design is. It's not shopping. It's not.
No.
We
Yeah.
present, I think that if you asked 20 different consumers out there, what do they think interior design is? I think they think it's buying really beautiful things and
Yeah.
getting it into the house. That's it, and it's not that at all, really. I mean, that's part of what is going on, but it's not, I mean, there's so much more into a selection of a piece that goes, they might not know that it takes like 90 touches in some pieces because you're picking out
All the
finite
things.
details of the
Hmm.
piece. It's not just
Hmm.
I'm clicking buy and it's coming to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like your restoration hardware account, like you mentioned, right? Like the whole thing
Right.
is coming assembled, and guess what? You're getting exactly what you saw. Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like the one thing that I don't know, it's something where like there's a lot of people like myself and you, we're all helping our peers and anyone who's less seasoned. There is something missing now above that. There is a gap where those of us that like have peaked out somewhere and now you've been maintaining at this certain like that I feel like is the next thing that's missing is getting to like some people's goal is six figures and you get to the seven. Well, there's people like
Well,
but
there's
I
all
want to
those
get to
other
eight. So
income resources too. It's not just
totally.
at a
Yeah.
certain point,
But the scaling.
you're a service worker and you need to be able to scale that to some,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because you're physically only able to do that installation so many times a year.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Hours you tap out. You need different
yeah.
revenue streams. And even then
Yeah.
you get to a point where it's okay, so what happens after this level? So I feel like there's a great median of tier of us of people helping others. And then I feel like the next gap is getting to the next stage. And they're probably so busy that they don't have time to share. But there's got to be something else now after this tier that
Sure.
there's got to be
Sure.
people who are going to start helping then that tier of people who have been mentoring other people. So that's the
Right.
one thing that I'm looking for. Like that's what I've been, which is why I
Well, I
ended up
told you that I
joining a
think the
different.
next step we're going to be doing is retreats for that kind of thing.
Yes.
I'd like to see it
Yes.
happen within the luxury interior design
Yes.
world, but also the brand world. I think that they live in a bubble as well. And
Hmm.
so, I when I sit down with brands and have conversations when they tell me like, look, we really want to work with designers, and I will tell them about how designers work. They're writing furiously notes, 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 but it really truly, it's a fundamental shift, how reps work with, the old guard of like working with the retailers versus how they really can forecast for designers and how they can work with interior designers and like working with it. What is it meaningful for you when you were working with a brand? Do you want more samples? Do you think that they're selling too many samples? Do you like having them come to your office? Do you wish they'd just call you or text you? There's a lot of moving parts in how
Hmm.
brands are working with us too. And so they need education as well. And they are a little bit in a bubble also. So I think I see a point where we will be doing retreats that are just designer. We'll do some just brand, and we'll probably do some collaborative brand and designer conversations because I think we need to learn from each other. There's a lot of really
Mm.
great corporate stuff that we could learn from brands. Like this is how we address the market for these different ideas. And that to me, that's we learn from each other and that we're all operating to the same in the same market. We're all trying to sell luxury goods
Yes.
to luxury
Yeah.
clients,
Yeah.
so how can we be more collaborative and learn from one another, and think outside the box a little bit about how this needs to move forward because it's changed so much even in the 12 years.
Thankfully.
Yeah,
Yes.
in a good way,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it still has a long way to go. I mean, some of these brands had to face, do we want to go e-commerce,
Mm.
which is very competitive and you're judging based on a picture and a price. Do we want to go design all in on designers? I mean, the showroom model has dried up quite a bit.
Yeah.
COVID, I mean, it was already
Yeah.
declining before COVID, but after COVID, I
Yes. A
can
lot
tell
of
you it's a
showrooms
huge
closed.
loss for
especially in
brands,
the commercial world, a lot of our
right?
vendors that we dealt with for commercial spaces, they closed their showrooms in downtown Toronto and just put
Yeah,
all their sales reps working from home, and that avenue is gone. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and that's across the board for many different product lines because brick and mortar was just so expensive. I mean,
Hmm.
the increase of prices in real estate what tripled in some areas. So they just really couldn't afford rents and it just didn't make and they need so much square footage for furniture and fixtures and things like that. So it's just a really tricky industry and we need to figure out how we want that, how we want to receive that information because sometimes it's just like it just we want the information when we want it, but we also don't want to be spammed with a million emails, and we don't want to be
Right.
texted a million times. We don't want someone
Yes.
dropping in without, an appointment. We're busy too. So how I think that conversation about how we work together and how we educate the market are pretty important topics that we really should be navigating
Hmm.
together.
I love that. And I like that if it's all under the umbrella of that, people trust you and they trust the interior design community. So you have this already going in that it's going to be vetted in some capacity, because we're all probably getting, every day I get multiple people emailing me on Instagram in my messages trying to get, I would love to show you this product, or I would love to, but like, then you look at the
Right.
address and they're not even in the same country. Like, did you even look at the
Right.
attention to detail? Just isn't there. So like, that's not going to work. But, I
Right.
like that you're already creating that trust with the interior design community so that therefore they would be more willing to try some of
Yeah.
these vendors that might be
Well,
looking
you
for the
want
avenue of
brands that
designers,
really, you're going to find this is going to be
understand the
the
business
new
model.
thing that's going to happen. I can already see the writing on the wall. There are going to be a lot of brands out there that are saying we're designer friendly because all that brick and mortar dried up, right? So they're going to be like, we're
Yes.
designer friendly. We're designer friendly. I don't know how many times I heard that at High Point.
Yeah.
We are designer friendly. And I was like, how?
Well, for how many
How are you
years we
designer
would,
friendly? Tell me what you're
yeah, like
doing.
we would call a vendor and say, we'd like to buy your product. And they'd be like, well, you can't. You're within a 30-kilometer or miles, in your case, driving distance from this store that sells the product, which was brick and mortar.
Right.
But that's 30 miles or 30 kilometers from me. It's not convenient to go and look at that product, pick it up from there. Like, why? I could give you more business anyway. And so I
Yeah.
understood,
No,
because
say
they
say
needed to
it because
support
this is
their,
the stuff they
they
need to
needed to,
hear.
yeah,
They're not, when you say designer friendly, what does that really mean to you?
right.
And because it's not friendly to me, then
Right.
I
It's
have
not
to drive 30
efficient for me
miles.
as a business
You know what
owner.
I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But I understand they were trying to support their vendors that are showing those
Sure.
items on the floor.
Sure.
But
But are they
they're,
showing every item that you have on the floor?
yeah, but that's
Maybe what I'm asking
exactly,
for, they
yeah,
aren't. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And so that's the other thing is I'm not saying we don't want to support the showrooms because
Not
I
at all, but I could see the
there's
the
lots of ways
model.
that we can
Yeah,
do that too.
that's
But
right.
I also want to make sure that if you are building a program out there for interior designers, designers really do care how that is made. They really do. And sometimes you can spend a lot of money doing the wrong thing that actually designers don't care about at all. If you're building a sampling program and you want to give the sample cards to every designer in the firm, that doesn't necessarily all that's not what design, I mean, it's just going to end up in a
Yeah,
box in a
yeah,
corner. Maybe that's not the right thing that the designers really care about. Maybe they care more that you have a designer concierge 24 hours a day that, or even a certain within business hours that they can contact, that they can ask really detailed questions for, and that will help them fill out the application. And we'll be doing some due diligence about where it is in the process because I know from talking to designers a million times that they hate having to chase their reps down and find out where something is. So,
well,
I mean,
I
that's
guess
got to
we
be easy.
had, totally, and we had another, about a year and a half ago, we had a vendor that we used for years, like all the time, for artwork, mirrors, lamps, but every 6 months they would turn it over. So you wouldn't have like the same art circulating. Well, I guess they must have had some kind of overage. So they sold all of their stock to, here it's called Home Sense. I think it's called Home
Yes.
Goods.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my clients were finding artwork that we had suggested at frickin' Home Goods and Home Sense for, like, I'm not joking, half of what we would have to sell it for to be able to be profitable. And I called them up and said, you should have told all your designers that you were going to do this, because they're in every town. So I
Right.
had to stop using them. I was so upset about it because
Right.
it
You're
felt like we
embarrassing me,
were,
and you erode
yes.
the trust that that client has in me.
And
How
I
is
had
that
given them
designer friendly?
20 years of business, 20
Right.
years.
Right.
But like that was you were not somebody who sold to big box stores. You sold only to designers. So
Right.
you really, excuse my language, you screwed us and yourself out of all the future business. So then they wrote us all
Absolutely.
back and said, we are no longer doing that. We apologize. It's too
Oh,
late.
too
You
late.
lost my trust. Like that's
Yeah.
not the right. Yeah,
You
that is not my
embarrassed me.
client. Yes.
Yeah, you're
Oh,
not,
I
you
was
embarrassed me. How could I
horrified.
trust you ever again with that
Yeah.
kind of business? Like you made me look like a fool to my client. And
Right. Like
not,
my client's not the Home Sense Home Goods client. So
no,
now they
no.
feel like I sold them subpar goods. If they
Right.
like only one and then I went and saw a couple other pieces. But it was the point was that it clearly was disappointing. So to your point, it has to be that the business model works for both the designer and
Right.
for and the quality needs to be there. And I'm not saying that those items
Sure.
aren't quality that you're buying there, but
Right.
somehow people associate budget numbers with more trend, not like forever long pieces. So it was really disappointing. And like to your
What's the
point, I was
relationship? You know?
horrified and embarrassed. Yeah, like
Sure.
really. Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, okay. I could
No
talk
one
to
wants
you
to be
all
called
day, Laurie, honestly. Like this
that.
is I like honestly, it's so interesting. And again, the connection, right? Just talking to
Right.
somebody else who is experiencing and knows and is in that in our industry. So anyone who doesn't know who you are is listening, please tell them where they can find you and about your community and if they want to sign up and what that looks like.
Sure. We are at interiordesigncommunity.com. We're on Interior Design Community on Instagram. Those are our first channels. We do have podcasts. We have a YouTube channel, but Interior Design Community, everything.
Everything's there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it and all your insights. Thank
Thank
you.
you.